Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the King of the Nerds UK vlog. This week sponsored by My Jane Hat. Get your Jane Hat now from where'd you get that hat.org net. So, King of the Nerds UK. For those of you unaware, it's a reality show where people are tested on various nerd things. It's hard to explain. Basically, the premise is they get a bunch of nerds together, and to me, being a nerd is purely about being passionate about something. I know the traditional notion of a nerd is like glasses, geeky, comic books. These are the words that come to mind. But to me, anyone who's super passionate about something is in their own way a nerd. So that guy in the pub that's obsessed with football, he's a nerd. Sorry, he is. He's obsessed. He follows the news and the thing. That's nerd, to me at least. And what I love about this show is that it really brings that out. Like it starts straight away. The Curtis, the sort of the mathematician, he talks about how everything is maths, and you get it straight away because everything is maths. He's right, and he clearly cares a lot about making sure you understand that, and that's kind of the point. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the show. Basically, it's an American premise, TBS show called King of the Nerds that went 3 seasons. I loved the US version, and I heard they were doing a UK version. I was very excited. It's on Sky One at 7 p.m. every Sunday, and I think that people should be watching it. So basically, the premise is there are 11 nerds living in a house called Nerdvana. It's full of nerdy things, so they call it Nerdvana. And every week, they in teams compete against each other in various nerd-based challenges. The losing team loses a member every week. The 2 members of that team get voted into what's known as the Nerd Off, and then one of them leaves the competition until we're down to 1, that person crowned King of the Nerds. And they may sit atop the throne of games, which, I mean, it's a big chair. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a big chair, and it's got various nerdy things on it. So what do I think of the UK version? So, I mean, on the whole, I'm really enjoying it. The only negatives I have actually to say about the whole thing so far, one, clearly, sadly, it's got not a great budget. Let's hope it's doing well, and if they bring it back next year, it has a bigger budget, because I think it could use a slightly bigger budget. Although, weirdly, despite the fact that everything feels slightly smaller scale compared to the US version, they've managed to get the rights to a lot of pretty big pieces of music. They have the Harry Potter, like Hedwig's theme and stuff in there. I don't know, is that where the budget went? Maybe, I don't know. The only other criticism I have is in the first episode, the narrator gives away a twist, and I just think that's bad storytelling from an editing perspective. Super nerdy. Otherwise, really enjoying it. They've chosen some fantastic people to be in the show. I kind of love them all for different reasons. These are the people. They've split into teams, as I mentioned. As you can see, one named themselves EVIL, which is an acronym for something. The Defenders of Time are the other team. I mean, the first episode, which is what I want to talk about first, actually, just to clarify, I should say that these vlogs, I'm going to be doing 2 episodes at a time, just so I can do other videos between them. If I did 1 vlog every week, that would sort of stunt my video output, because I only have time to make so many. So I'll be doing 2 episodes at a time. So this is for episodes 1 and 2. The first episode is actually really clever, because the task is really simple. The task is simply split into teams, and that sounds really simple, but the way they do it on this show causes a little bit of conflict, but also forces them all to explain who they are to each other and sort of prove their worth very quickly, and that's kind of brilliant from a sort of premise perspective. Karen and Robin, if I'm not mistaken, were in the Nerd Off, and it's a pretty straightforward quiz at that point. The show. Very, quite an exciting quiz, because it's about things there's a roundabout acronyms, and, they were answers to questions were things like Back to the Future and Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which as an acronym, by the way, is madness. When all those letters came up on that screen, it took me a split second to figure it out, but in that split second, I'm going, what the hell is that? Surely that's not a name of a thing. That's a novel. You've acronymed a whole novel. But unfortunately, because I was becoming fond of a poor Robin, didn't get to stick around, which is a shame because I felt like she had, I think she had an interesting sort of character to her, and I thought she could have added a lot to proceedings. So sadly, the black marker comes out. Dun, dun, dun. Robin eliminated in the first episode. What I want to do now is very briefly talk about the second episode, because the second episode turned out to be far more interesting. Now, I enjoyed the first one a great deal, but the second one, things really started to become clear how the show was going to go. Basically, a huge amount of backstabbing. It is. I've seen all 3 seasons of the American show, and I don't think I've ever quite seen so much slyness. So the competition, and not just backstabbing, but sneaking and sort of trying to get the advantage through means that are less than sort of honourable. For example, immediately it's a cosplay task this week, and immediately Kenny tries to sneak into the other room to see what the other team are doing, and then reports back they've got nothing, which he wasn't wrong. At that point, they had pretty much nothing. Unsurprisingly, that team lost. That was, I believe, Team Evil. Team Evil did not succeed this week. But what then proceeded to happen is the vote. Now, how the vote works is the team that loses are eligible to vote. So in this case, the Defenders of Time were our winners, which meant anyone from Team Evil could be voted into the Nerd Off. You need 2 people for the Nerd Off. There's a vote on the Defenders of Time. They get to choose someone. Traditionally, this team will choose the strongest player from this team to weaken it. That's usually how it goes. And then amongst this team, they'll decide themselves. Often they'll act in whoever was the weakest in the task. That tends to be the trend in the American show. That's not what happened here. What happened here was that Yasmin, Emily, and Hannah, led by and certainly suggested by Emily, conspired to keep themselves safe because they had the majority vote. When you look at it's a 5-member team, and conspired to send out one of the other 2 boys to protect themselves. Now, the irony here is they were under the assumption that the other team would send Mark as the strongest player to the Nerd Off. Therefore, they all chose Ryan, which meant all 3 of them should theoretically be safe. What happened was all 3 girls chose Ryan, but the other team, the Defenders of Time, content with throwing a wrench in that works, selected Emily, the person who had chosen that strategy in order to protect her own skin. Kind of amazing. I mean, the poetry involved here is remarkable. Poor Emily, she then got through under the bus as well, which I didn't think was fair at all. Yeah, both Yasmin and Hannah were like, yeah, we didn't feel comfortable doing that. You did it. Like, take responsibility for your own actions here, people. It's not that hard. You did the vote. If you didn't agree with it, you shouldn't have done it. She's one person. She didn't just, she's not the puppet master. She's a person like you. So it was Emily versus Ryan. Now, Ryan being one of the stronger players and Emily having, I'll be honest, not shown a great deal of what she was capable of in the first episode, I assumed it was going to be a pretty straightforward Nerd Off. I thought Ryan was going to take it, but truth be told, Emily came out the true nerd. So what we've got now, and I'll be honest with you, it's not looking great for Team something, because what we've got now is one of the stronger players gone in Ryan, and a lot of sort of fractures showing amongst the group, because the 3 girls are, Yasmin and Hannah are not happy with Emily. Poor Mark stuck in the middle. That's going to be a pretty interesting group dynamic next week. If you don't watch the show, you might be starting to understand why it's great, because this sort of drama is exactly what makes it brilliant. So yeah, it's a really great show. I'm thrilled that they've brought it on in the UK. I think it's guaranteed to continue being this good, and that's not a bad thing. My favourite moment from episode 1 was Karen's reaction to her team voting her into the Nerd Off, which went like this.
I'm going to take any responsibility out of this. Well, it's nothing personal towards you. It's just
And my favourite moment from the second episode was when Kenny was sneaking into the other team to look at them. He wore a cockroach outfit and made a noise like this. So that's everything for this particular vlog. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for discussion of episodes 3 and 4. Thank you very much for watching. King of the Nerds, Sky 1 in the UK on Sundays at 7. watch it. Thanks, Jane Hat.